Many different techniques are used to extricate a victim from the water. The technique you choose will depend on the victim's condition, your location, and the characteristics of the facility, such as a sloping entry or high edges. If the victim can walk, use the walking assist to extricate them from the water. Place one of the victim's arms around your neck and over your shoulder, grasping their wrist. Wrap your other arm around the victim's back or waist and maintain a firm grasp while you help them walk to safety. If the victim is unable to walk, the beach drag may be a safe and easy option. Once you reach shallow water, stand up behind the victim and move your rescue tube out of the way so you don't trip on it. Firmly grasp them under the armpits, supporting the victim's head as much as possible with your forearms, and walk backwards toward the shore. Drag the victim far enough so that they are completely out of the water. Lower them gently to the ground and assess the victim's condition and provide appropriate care. Do not use this technique if you suspect an injury to the head, neck, or spine unless the victim is not breathing. A beach drag can also be performed with 2 rescuers. Each lifeguard should grasp the victim under an armpit and support the head. For passive victims, after you have brought a victim to the surface, the easiest and fastest way to extricate the victim from the water is to use a backboard. The rescuing lifeguard swims with the victim toward the side of the pool while the assisting responder on deck brings the backboard to the edge of the water. The assisting responder places the board vertically in the water against the wall, submerging the headspace of the board if possible. The rescuing lifeguard approaches the backboard and raises one of the victim's arms so that the assisting responder can grasp the victim's arm. The rescuing lifeguard slides the rescue tube out from under the victim and towards themselves before the victim makes contact with the board. The assisting responder on deck firmly holds the backboard with one hand and the victim's wrist with their other hand, as the rescuing lifeguard stabilizes the backboard from the side. Once the victim is centered on the backboard, the assisting responder signals that they are ready to remove the victim and pulls the victim and backboard onto the deck. The rescuing lifeguard pushes the backboard as the assisting responder pulls. The assisting responder steps backward, then carefully lowers the backboard to the ground. Assess the victim's condition and provide appropriate care. If more than one on-deck responder is available to assist, they should help hold the backboard and pull it onto the deck. While aquatic attraction lifeguards, shallow water lifeguards, and other non-lifeguard members of the safety team are not trained to perform deep water rescues, they may still act as the assisting responder on deck when extricating a victim in deep water. When available, 2 assisting responders on deck may help to remove the victim and backboard from the water. Two lifeguards can also extricate a victim on a backboard using the steps. The rescuing lifeguard swims with the victim towards the side of the pool, while the assisting responder on the deck brings the backboard to the steps and removes the head immobilizer. The assisting responder then places the board in the water at an angle against the steps. The rescuing lifeguard approaches the backboard and moves to the side of the victim, while the assisting responder grasps the victim's wrist with one hand while holding the backboard with their other hand. The rescuing lifeguard stabilizes the backboard from the side, while the assisting responder firmly holds the backboard with one hand and the victim's wrist with the other hand. When the victim is centered on the backboard, the rescuing lifeguard moves to the foot of the board. When the assisting responder signals, they pull the backboard at an angle up the steps and onto the deck, while the rescuing lifeguard pushes the backboard. Once the victim is safely on the deck, assess their condition and provide appropriate care. Before choosing this method of exiting the water, consider factors such as the size and weight of the victim, the number of steps, your own physical abilities, and whether or not other lifeguards or assisting responders are available to assist with holding, lifting, carrying, and lowering the board. In some cases, it may be safer to use the pool edge method of removal instead. When extricating a passive drowning victim from an attraction with moving water and/or a steep staircase, such as a winding river, both lifeguards must enter the water. The rescuing lifeguard supports the victim in a face-up position with their arms extended alongside their head. In moving water, the rescuing lifeguard should position the victim so that their head is pointed upstream. This position will help keep the victim's body in alignment for easier placement of the backboard and reduce splashing of water onto the victim's face. The rescuing lifeguard supports the victim with their mouth and nose out of the water and walks towards the extrication point. The assisting lifeguard removes the head immobilizer from the backboard and guides the board into position under the victim as the rescuing lifeguard approaches. Each lifeguard uses one hand to grasp the victim's wrist and the other hand to hold the backboard. Lifeguards carefully and gently drag the backboard, taking one step at a time until they reach the top of the steps. Gently lower the backboard to the ground and provide appropriate care. When extricating a victim using a backboard in a zero-depth entry pool or waterfront, the rescuing lifeguard and assisting responder should both enter the water. After the assisting responder positions the backboard under the victim, both lifeguards move behind the victim's head. Each grasps one of the victim's wrists and one of the handholds of the backboard, lifting the head end of the backboard and gently dragging it out of the water. You may be able to lift a passive small victim out of the water to provide care if you do not suspect a head, neck, or spinal injury. Bring the victim to the side of the pool. With the victim on their back, rotate them into the crook of your arm, supporting their head above the water. Place your other arm under the victim's knees. Carefully lift the victim onto the deck or walk out of a zero-depth area and assess the victim and provide appropriate care. This technique can be used to remove a small, passive victim from shallow water if a backboard is not immediately available.